Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. I'm so glad you're here. You guys, this is the gift that keeps on giving. No, this book is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the reviews of this book I'm enjoying so much. There is a new one out by Jan Moir, who I've discussed at length before. I really enjoy her take on Dumb and Dumberton and now her take on this guy in this book. So I'm excited to dive into this with you. We're going to read through it. We're going to discuss amongst ourselves. Thank you guys so much for being here. Honk honk. I'm Jen. Let's jump into this. Okay, this is courtesy of the Daily Mail. Of course, Jan Moir writes, "There's a moral void at the heart of Omid Scobie's laughably partisan book and the entire Sussex industrial grievance complex." I did another video. It's this one here. And I read reviews of this book from people who had advanced copies, and that seems to be the consensus. It's, as we figured, it's all about Harry and Meghan's point of view, nobody else's, and very little, if any, facts to actually back any of the accusations up. So Jan writes, "Before we return once more to the tights and the fights," I love that, "and who said what about Oprah, it is useful to note how much of Endgame is not about the beleaguered royals, but about dear Omid Scobie instead." Okay, you know my stance on this. I'm not going to give them a penny of my money. I'm waiting for my library copy. I'm just asking for your thoughts and prayers during this time because, good Lord, how am I supposed to get through this book? Seriously. I thought it was about the gripings of the two idiots in Montecito. I didn't realize that Omid makes about himself. But of course, those three, again, I've said it before, they're birds of a feather. So why wouldn't it be? My gosh, how am I going to do this? All right, let's keep going. The author, I'm using quotations, ushers himself into the narrative with the clammy urgency of a pushy mother using her progeny into a lead role in the school play. I love the picture that Jan paints with her words. I think that is a brilliant way to describe that doofus. On page after page, Omid and his omnipresent ID are never far from the heart of the action and always painted in a heroic light. We learn of the abuse he receives on social media sites. Okay, this is the same play that Meghan and Harry pull too. It's like, oh, it's so tough online. But I'm sorry, we all know the truth. The group affiliated with these three, the Sussex squad, that's so cringy to say out loud. Ugh. It makes me nauseous when I say it. But anyway, are the worst of the online, whatever you want to call them, trolls, hate group, whatever. That's what they are. So it cracks me up that Meghan does the same thing. Oh, it's so hard online. That's why we're trying to control free speech. Giving word salad speeches and stuff. And yet, again, their following is known to be the most vocal and I would say one of the most abusive groups out there. Struggle to be taken seriously within the royal press pack. Whose fault is that? Look who you chose to align with. Is anybody shocked by this? His fury when he's excluded from the same. His dull little thoughts, again, love Jan Moir, on British society and Brexit. His dismay when senior courtiers didn't listen to his upstart advice, how he personally felt when the Queen died, and why he wore a black jumper from Marks and Spencer on television. I can't get through this, you guys. I cannot. I'm going to need each of you to come sit by me and hold my hand and pet my hair while I read this book, because even reading this description, I'm like, how? What is this book? What are we doing? This is awful. Then Jan swoops in with her version of bless his heart. His belief that anyone interested in any of this Scobie minutia is touching, if a little misguided. Yet he still doggedly types on, revealing that it was because his polyester non-iron suit was in the boot of his car, which was being serviced at a garage 20 miles away. Which garage, Omid? Just kidding. I don't give a toot. I'm sorry. Does anybody else find this completely hilarious that the one that makes everything about herself picks an author? And yes, I'm saying picks an author. I know they didn't work together. They totally did. It's my opinion that they did. Bleh. Anyway, picks an author that makes everything about himself. God, they are going to have a big fallout, and it's going to be hilarious to watch. You could say all of this reveals the royal author to be kind of a habitual breakfast television sofa guest who has convinced himself that people are interested in him for who he is rather than what he does. Truly, the vanity of endless punditry, that's a hard word to say, is a heady drug for some. Okay, on to the good stuff. We've been waiting, right? Within days of its publication, Endgame has already been described as a poisonous exercise in vengeance. And believe me, that is almost one of the positives. 2 senior members of the royal family involved in alleged, the Eastward scandal have been accidentally named in Dutch copies of the book, resulting in it being pulled from bookshops across Holland. And of course, a nice wave of publicity lapping around the world. I see you, Jan, and I love that you're calling it out. The author wails that translation errors are to blame. But should he be believed? Can he be believed? I can answer that for you, Jan. No. Ultimately, this is a history book that will not go down in the history books. Well said. Being little more than an exercise in grievance by proxy that feels slippery to the touch. In a chapter called Gloves Off, for example, Scobie parlays the grisly Spotify debacle, a business deal which ended in failure and acrimony, with a Spotify executive, shall we say it together, describing I won't say their titles, as a pair of grifters. I love it. Actually, he called them blanking grifters, which I love, as merely a regrettable mistake which Harry and Meghan had been bounced into after the royal institution cut them off all funding and security in 2020. Hey, imagine that. The one who's always going to blame everybody else. Nothing's ever their fault. Again, case in point, think about his uniform he decided to wear for Halloween, which he promptly tried to blame William and Catherine for. Nothing is ever their fault. And imagine that. They've, again, paired up with this author who, regurgitates that same sentiment. Nothing is their fault, ever. Then, after signing a contract worth $20 million, let that sink in. I yell it because I care, to develop Spotify podcasts, neither of the two of them expected the company's executives to turn down so many of their, quote, ideas. Who knew when there wasn't a global market for Meghan's curated cease? Yes, I had to look up the French pronunciation of that word. On gender inequality and rescue chickens, or Harry's big idea to interview Putin over a wellness-focused cup of chai while single-handedly solving the world's problems. Wah! It's all everyone else's fault. Stop looking at us. Scobie's grand theme in Endgame is that the downfall of the monarchy... I sounded redneck there. Downfall. The downfall of the monarchy is nigh, and if it falls to him to light the touch paper on the bonfire of ruin, then so be it. In the past, he says he's held back on revealing some of the darker truths at the heart of the institution of the British monarchy. Okay, pause. Think about this. Isn't this reminiscent of what Harry did after Spare came out? He basically threatened everybody and said, "Oh, you think this is a lot? I had whatever it was, like 2.5 times the pages originally in the book. I took a lot out. I still have a lot more to say. Part of this book will burn my bridges for good, but to tell the full story, there's no holding back. Not anymore. We're in the end game," he writes. Oh my God. Even reading excerpts like that, it gives me a headache. Let's see. With the kind of flourish that demands ink, a quill, and a mad cackle. Ha 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 ha. Cue cymbal crash and lightning flash. Pray bid thy servants to make haste with the popcorn. Jane continues, I happily brace myself for a barrage of royal truth bombs, but staggering revelations came there none. Despite such juicy chapter headings such as Ghost at the Feast, Skilled Survivors, and A Dangerous Game, there are no surprises here, nor any glimmer of gradual enlightenments about previously murky situations. Instead, what lands on the endgame pages are the spare bits of Spare, along with reiterations and amplifications of the Duke, I won't say his title, of that a-hole's pet peeves. All right, there's a dense, mad, sweaty chapter about press briefings, press conspiracy, and press royal press rotas of interest to practically nobody except for Harry. And more of the same old rehashed hurts and complaints concerning the old myth magnet known as Meghan. Myth magnet! That is great. I love myth magnet. How have I not thought of this before? That's great. I'm writing it down as I read this. Myth magnet known as Meghan. Can't we all please move on? Apparently not. No, they cannot, because this is their only skill, is trying to kick up dirt. The only thing they can do to try to make money, and it's so funny to watch it fail so spectacularly. There's a coldness toward Meghan from the very early stages that I always found quite surprising, Scobie had said in interviews to promote Endgame before squarely blaming the Princess of Wales for the institutional chill. That is some bullshit. Again, I feel so strongly for and about Princess of Wales and all that she's had to endure since the creature the sea witch came into her life. And still, they, meaning Omid, Harry, and Meghan, are taking shots at her. Include this photo for a reason, because she gets to have the last laugh, because it's all come out. We can see it again in print, and everybody's remembering, oh yeah, the three of them are awful people, talking about Meghan, Harry, and Omid. I always found it interesting that when Meghan was going through the sort of toughest days of her life and struggling with mental health issues, someone within the family who's experienced that glare as a newcomer for the first time herself wasn't able to turn around and help a family member. To me, I think that speaks lots to someone's character. You know what speaks lots to someone's character? Blaming your sister-in-law for not being able to fix your problems. That is such BS. Why couldn't you turn to your idiot husband? Again, I brought this up in another video. It's been alleged and on record that the Queen offered her help in the way of people to teach her how to do things, be a part of the royal family, how it all works. And Meghan was like, no thanks, I have Harry. Okay, then if you have Harry, why couldn't you turn to Harry when things got tough? And I'm on record as pointing out, I don't believe it. I don't believe she struggled. I think this mental health thing is just a handy little tool for her to use when she needs it. Because if it was that important to you, would you risk the mental health of family members that you're trying to call out right now? No, you wouldn't. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing they say or do makes any sense. Then Jan says, it speaks a lot about something, that's for sure. And if Catherine was hesitant to welcome Meghan into her confidences and inner circle, hasn't that reticence been entirely justified? Exactly. That's what I've been saying too. Not in the perfumed Omid dome where Meghan and Harry can do no wrong and everyone else is a stone cold rotter. Ooh, I hadn't heard that, but I really like it. A stone cold rotter. So then Jan continues, one of the very worst things about Endgame is the author's egregious painting concern about the mental health issues that famously dogged Dumb and Dumberton, before merely sticking the boot into others who might have issues of their own. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm saying. They only care about themselves. They make these statements that make no sense, and they do the complete opposite of what they're saying. So they rattle on about mental health without giving a fill in the blank about anybody else's mental health. He more or less claims, for example, that Prince William, ready for this, is a raving basket case who needs to be on a shorter chain. Again, I ask you, where have we heard this? Oh yeah, Harry's book. He tried to say the same bullshit. Then, quoting from Omid's book, it says, William's emotional volatility could be one of his greatest challenges, and his silky insinuation before claiming that his empty cipher of a wife was so coachable and malleable that she was known on social media as Katie Keene. Even the most cursory check proves this to be demonstrably untrue, as odious Omid must know. No, I don't think he does know. I think he's just blindly reporting on whatever those two are cooking up, especially Meghan. And this has Meghan's grubby little paws all over it again because she can't not take swipes at Catherine. Then it continues elsewhere, keen to show off his insider connections. He details the day in 2019 when senior members of the Sussex team inform him of Meghan's emotional state. It's really bad, Omid. Okay, if he's claiming not to have a relationship with her, which obviously we know is bullshit, but he's claiming this, how's he also including this, that she's allegedly ringing him up? Okay. Make it make sense. Okay. It doesn't. It can't make any sense. Recollections may vary. I'm just going to throw these things at you until until I'm satisfied. But seriously, though, they contradict themselves at every turn. Of course, they're talking to each other. That's not the shock. It's just shocking that he's pretending to be surprised by it. But he claims that she called and said, "Hi, Omid. It's Meghan." No, she would call him and be like, "Hi, Omid. It's Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. I put my iced coffee down," he writes. Not quite sure if the call was a prank. Oh, okay, you don't have call ID? All right. Indeed, perhaps Meghan usually communicates with him by carrier pigeon and osmosis, but by the sheer power of thought, by gossamer notes pinned to moonbeams, or by what's written in the stars. I love Jan Moir. All right, I'm going to wrap this up because she does go on for quite a bit longer. It's a great article. Definitely read it. But the part that I also want to bring your attention to is the part I have been screaming from the rooftops. You ready? All right. She's saying that he's informed from those two, obviously, right? That he claims sources and friends, but surely it's with their blessing. Otherwise, he'd be dropped from the inner circle, right? Yet all parties pretend this is not the case and take us for fools. That is one reason why Endgame is so unsettling and weird. That is what I've been saying too from the jump. They're all denying, we wouldn't work together. No, even though it's carrying on Harry and Meghan's agenda that we've seen thus far. And he claims to know these things that could have only come from Harry and Meghan. And yet they do that thing where they think they've outsmarted everyone, and yet joke's on them because they're the ones that look like idiots. Once again, Jan Moir comes through. I love this review. I love the article. I am dreading reading this book even more than I initially was, but I am going to do it because I feel like it's important to continue to call out the lies. But guys, as always, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this. Definitely let me know your thoughts on this one. Leave me comments below. What are your thoughts on Jan? What are your thoughts on them pretending not to know each other or communicate or whatever they're pretending this week? Just all of it. What do you think of the term myth magnet? I think that's pretty great for Meghan. So much to discuss. I can't wait to read your thoughts on this and everything else. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Of course, as always, if you want to further support, we do offer merch. We got Not Bloody Likely, which seems to fit this situation pretty good. A nod to Princess Anne, of course. We have that, as well as Recollections May Vary. Again, seems to fit this situation pretty darn well. So check that out. Of course, we got Drunk Goose Club. Honk, honk, everybody. And then if you want to further support, of course, there's Patreon, patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. That's where you can find our bonus episodes, deep dives, extra content. Sometimes I just grab the microphone and scream into it about these ass clowns for a while. You know, it's just a fun place to vent and kind of circumvents YouTube a little bit. But anyway, so check that out. You can get your name as a executive producer, just like the lovely geese and ganders you see on the screen right now. Thank you guys for everything. I can't wait to bring you more stuff like this, and I'll talk to you again soon. Honk, honk, everybody.